Hello, everyone. We are live once again. It's going to be a redo of that last one. That one didn't go so well. But you obviously see the title, you know what this is going to be. This isn't going to be so long. In fact, it's probably going to be one of the shorter streams. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't need to be an hour. But I'm not going to show my face here. Oof. But it's going to be more like a podcast thing where you just hear me, you don't see me. But you can obviously see the the logo of the channel, which hasn't changed. I think well, it's changed. I think twice. I had an old picture. Anyway, I'm going to share the three things that got me into horror. I used to not like horror. In fact, I used to hate it. I, I don't know. I was never a big fan when I was younger. At least not really. Um, yeah, people get into horror through different ways. It's all like, I don't know, their own experience. But I do have three specific things here. I'm not going to show them, obviously, but I'll just talk about them. I think I'll just go through them one by one, and this stream will be about 30 minutes. I think that's enough time to explain everything. Um, so yeah, let's see. I don't know which of these first two things I got into first exactly. You know what? It's probably Goosebumps, the book series. That's the first thing I'll talk about. Goosebumps was this weird, like, uh, it's hard to explain. Well, it's not really hard to explain. I mean, it's hard to talk about how it influenced me, but you all know Goosebumps, the book series, the original series from, let's see, 1996? Oh, 1992, sorry. 1992. Um, so I have the first book here physically. Welcome to Dead House. Excellent book. The episode was pretty good. Um, but Goosebumps was this like mixture of kids horror. Like there's a bunch of books. There's like 65 in the very first run. So that's like the run I want to collect. It's like the original series. Um, some of the books were kind of dumb. Like there's this one where there's these bees that attack. It was something. Um, there's some really scary ones like Say Cheese and Die. That one was awesome. Um, there was the Night of the Living Dummy, of course. There was the Haunted Mask. You all know that one. Let's see. I can't remember exactly all of them. There's the Shocker on Shock Street. That was great. Um, the Blob that ate everyone. That was excellent. Uh, the Camp Nightmare. That was pretty good. There's a lot. There's a lot. I can't remember every single one, but there is quite a lot of good ones. There were some cringe ones. Let me see if they have some of the books in here. In this one. I'm looking here. Hold on. The Girl Who Cried Monster, that was good. Monster Blow was awesome. Um, The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, that was great. Oh, One Day at Horrorland, that's a classic. Um, let's see, The Ghost Next Door, that was great. Let's Get Invisible, that's one of my favorites. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of good ones, but there's a lot of cringe ones. Um, like You Can't Scare Me, that one was okay. Let's see. I think once Monster Blood hit Monster Blood 4, apparently it's really bad. I haven't read it, but it's apparently terrible. Piano Listens Can Be Murder, that was okay. I think the episode was a little bit better. The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, that was great. Um, so yeah, those are just some examples. I don't want to like say everyone. The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, that one never really interested me, to be honest. But yeah, um, Eventually, I'll have all the series. That'd be great. Not all the series, but like the whole original run. That's what I want to have someday. Anyway, Goosebumps was this like they were kind of almost like an edgy kid series. Like the different ghost stories. Um, those were kind of Goosebumps. They were like almost like a monster of the week, where a kid or two kids or whatever they would face like some kind of supernatural threat. That's the gist of Goosebumps. And so they would have to beat the monster in the end. And sometimes, what I really liked is that sometimes the ending was dark, which is great because it's not always the same, thing, which was nice. The artwork was fantastic. I don't remember who did the artwork, but oh my word, for every Goosebumps book, it has the iconic font in the front with Arlstein at the top. But the artwork, you remember the art of the book, like, and the tagline. For example, with Welcome to Dead House, the tagline is "It will just kill you," which is dark. It's not really about the house, but I mean, it is centered in the house. The house isn't alive or anything. It just seems like that because of the artwork, um, which is just great. The art is really realistic. Like it looks like a real house, which is great. I believe each of the books were about $3-4, so not too expensive. But if you're gonna get the whole series, it's gonna really um, amount to a lot. Um, I was tempted to buy a ton of the series recently, and I think it was 2 months ago. Maybe 3 months ago. I saw like a ton of the old books, and I wanted to get all of them at once, but I'm like, maybe just get the first four, and so that's what I have now. And so I'm just like kind of waiting to get them sporadically, so I can have all of the series, and then eventually I can um, cover all of them. But if you're not aware, Goosebumps also had a TV show, which of course I did watch. I didn't grow up with it because it was in the 90s. So, I mean, I was born in 99. So that I was like when the decade ended. So I didn't obviously grow up with it, but I know what it is. And so they made a TV show, which I believe it was in 1997, 1996. It was somewhere around there. Actually, I think it was 1995. They had the series, which was like a Canadian, mostly production, which is fine. And it was great. A lot of the episodes were based on the books. However, some of them were kind of weird. Like there's this one trilogy, they call it a trilogy, where it was based. Actually, wasn't based on a book. It was based, or which is made for the show, and it had one of the best villains ever. His name was Carl, and he was basically the ruler of this town called Carlsville. It was amazing. Probably one of the best like stories in the show, in my opinion. We used to own it. I wish I owned it or still had it. I don't know where it went, but yeah, it's gone. But that was just one of the many like episodes in the series. Most episodes were just one, like just one episode. Just 22 minutes, 21 minutes, 22 minutes, somewhere around there. Um, but some of them were two-parters, like the Cry of the Cat. I I don't think I watched that one. I might have. I don't remember. But I watched almost every episode of Goosebumps because I'm the big fan. So yeah, I supported it. They used to have actually no, they still have it on Netflix. Never mind, they still have it on Netflix, so you can still watch all the episodes. Um, my favorite episode is definitely Attack of the Mutant. It's also one of my favorite books. It's one actually it is my favorite book. It's one where it's like a superhero story. I don't want to like spoil anything, but it involves a character called the Masked Mutant, which is like a comic book supervillain. It's kind of goofy. The episode is even more goofy, but I just wanted to let you know that's a great story. It's great as a book and the episode. They're both great. Um, my second favorite episode is probably Click. That one is great. No, it's not the Adam Sandler movie. It's not, although it's pretty similar. But Click came first, so or the Goosebumps episode came first. Anyway, yeah, Goosebumps was great. I encourage you to watch it. It's a great series. Like if you're not really a reader, um, I suggest at least reading one of the Goosebumps books. I mean, you could pick any of the 65, and you could enjoy any of them. And they're like kind of cheesy, but they're written in a good way. Like R.L. Stein knows how to balance the comedy, the funny, the humor stuff, and the scary stuff, which a lot of the stories are genuinely scary. So at least most of them are. The episodes kind of make it goofy a little bit, and what's really cool is in the show they actually have a some of the episodes have like I guess some of the special episodes they have a guest appearance by R.L. Stein himself. So he actually appears in the beginning to like tell you what the episode's going to be. It's only in like a few episodes, like the big two-parter episodes, I think. Like A Night in Terror Tower. I think that's one of them. Yeah, that's one of the ones he appears in. But yeah, that would I just want to let you know about that. Um, yeah, if you haven't read any of these books, and if you're not like a big reader, if you're not like if you don't care about reading, you should definitely at least watch a few of the episodes, maybe to get like a general feel of the show, because it's really great. It still holds up, I think. Although I'm gonna put an honorable mention here. The Haunting Hour is a lot more intense. The Haunting Hour is pretty connected to Goosebumps because it's also written by R.L. Stein, or at least the concept was um, created by him. So they're connected in a way. But if you don't want the cheesy acting of Goosebumps and the 90s look, The Haunting Hour is for you. It's way darker, it's way more intense, and there's way less humor. So if you want something darker, go for that. Um, but yeah, I think The Haunting Hour is also based on stories. I'm pretty sure. There's a book called The Nightmare Hour. I think that's what it's called. I'm pretty sure a lot of the Haunting Hour episodes came from that. At least I think. I'm not sure exactly, but that's what I think. Anyway, yeah, the both shows are connected. Um, Goosebumps is pretty family friendly for the most part. There is some like action and fighting and stuff, but it's not too bad. Um, yeah, if you want to kick it up a notch, go with the Haunting Hour. It's just a better series in my opinion. Although Goosebumps isn't bad, but that was the first thing that got me into horror, is specifically the Goosebumps books, and then I watched the show later on. Okay, I have returned. Sorry about that, but anyway, you probably saw when I was gone, you saw the things that I was talking about. Anyway, I was discussing Goosebumps while I was ending it. I already pretty much explained um, before. It's just a great book series. Hopefully, I can own them all someday, like the original 65 books. I'm hoping to do that someday. And the TV show is also pretty great, despite it being cheesy as heck. I mean, it's the 90s, what do you expect? Anyway, now I can move on to. Actually, this probably might go a little bit longer, since I was gone for a little bit. The next thing, let's see. Let's talk about another book series, shall we? This is probably one of my favorite book series, like, ever. Like, I don't know, I just love it. The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the famous series from the 80s and 90s. At least the first book was, let's see here, hold on, 1981. So that's when it first came out, the first book. I have it here physically, finally. So the Scary Stories books are way kind of controversial. Um, Apparently they're a children's series. It's not really said anywhere though. Like on the books, it there's not like it doesn't say children's books for some reason. Um, I just consider them to be like just stories, like in like folklore in general. Even though on the I guess on the back it does say reading level 4.5. So that's something. These stories are very. Some of them are common, especially in this first book. Like there's a lot of urban legends, like the. Hold on. The babysitter, the high beams with the girl in the car, the hook. Let's see. You probably heard of the Viper. Um, Wait Till Martin Comes is pretty popular. Um, so basically, how these books work is that there's 3 volumes. There's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That's the first one. And there's more Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And then the best one is Scary Stories 3, which is More Tales to Chill Your Bones. And yeah, that's the most scariest book in the trilogy for sure, because it has the darkest stories. Um, but yeah, the books are pretty easy to read. Like there's no like problems there, which is good. They're basically a bunch of little folk legends, like a bunch of like local myths and like just scary tales, I guess. They're written by Alvin Schwartz, who kind of retells them in his own way. And a cool thing about the first part of the books is that there is a foreword. No, this one is Strange and Scary Things. So that's in the first book. Again, I'm gonna mainly just talk about the first book because it's iconic. Everyone knows it, and it's like the first, you know, the first one. So yeah. Um, Basically, how these books work is each book is about. Hold on. Okay, sorry. About 113 pages long. So again, not very long, but there's a lot of stories. Like there's a lot of content. It's just not very like thick. It's not very long, which is fine. So there's a bunch of just different like ghost stories and stuff, and it's pretty cool. Alvin Schwartz has done some other books, like he did more scary stories, obviously. He did a Twister, a Twist, a Tangler of Tongues, Tomfoolery. He did Cross Your Fingers, Spin Your Hat, Chid Music. But he basically did a lot of folklore books. Like he just talked about local legends, like from America and other countries, which is cool. That kind of stuff really interests me. So yeah, hopefully I can like pick up some copies of his other books as well. That'd be nice. But the format of these books is pretty similar. All 3 of them have a foreword, so they're all the Alvin Schwartz tells you about what you're gonna expect from each book. And I think each book has about 5 chapters. The first 4 chapters are all stories that are kind of creepy or scary or weird. Um, the first chapter is almost always jump scare stories. So these are stories you want to like read aloud to people and then jump, scare them, which is the point of the first chapter. And then the other 3 chapters are just like stories in general from around the world. But the 5th chapter is interesting because these stories are not meant to scare, they're meant to make you laugh. They're meant to be like, after all these scary stories, and then you're at the end of the book, and then these stories are funny. They're not supposed to be scary, which is great because after experiencing all this terrifying creepiness, you want to be able to laugh. So chapter 5 is always the joke stories. So these are like the stories that are just meant to be fun and dumb and just silly, which is great. And also at the end of the book, there are notes and sources and also bibliographies about the where the stories came from. So like what version came from what, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. My favorite part of these books is the back section, which is the notes. It just tells Alvin Schwartz tells you about the different stories and where he heard them and how he got them. It's really interesting, I find. But the most well-known thing about the scary stories is not the stories, it's the drawings, it's the illustrations. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. The the inside, like all the stories in the book, are the I'm sorry, the illustrations. So like the artwork, all of this artwork is just I have never seen anything like this in any book ever. I still haven't. It's just weird. If you don't know, the drawings were by Stephen Gamble, and he's done some other books. Like I think he did a book on the Holocaust, which is kind of a little bit iffy. But he did some other books. I think he did illustrate some other things, and his illustrations are just the only word I can say to describe these is just surreal. Like there's no artwork I've seen like his, and it carries throughout all 3 books, which is great. So you get the same quality of artwork throughout all 3 books, and in the third one, it's really creepy. Like the most disturbing of all of them is in the Scary Stories 3, which is obviously the most intense book of the series. I mean, it's called Scary Stories 3. It's going to be the most scary of them. And we'll get to that when we get to the review of that. But this is great. All the covers, if you've seen the covers of these books, you know the artwork, how the art is. And some of this artwork had stayed with me. Like a lot of the illustrations from the books I can still remember first seeing it in the elementary school library because I first was exposed to Scary Stories, the first one, in elementary school, and that's where I first discovered the horror of these books. I was just like fascinated, like I was just like obsessed with. I still am. I love this kind of. I don't know. There's something about the artwork and the stories together that just like really. I just love that. I don't know. I just love the way they did it. But I would recommend reading some of these books. It's really hard to get a copy of the original printings now, unless you go to. I was lucky and I found all 3 of them at a Goodwill, and they were not beat up. I mean, they're not. The first one is a little bit beat up, but it's not like destroyed or anything, which is nice. So if you can somehow get your hands on like an original copy of the original book, I would do it. It's especially if you have like the nostalgia like me. I technically grew up with these, not really, because I didn't grow up in the '80s, but I grew up reading these so much. I think I checked the Scary Stories books out the most out of the library, and Yeah, I'm proud to own them now, which is cool. They do have like you can get new copies of them at Barnes and Noble, but it's not the same. It's really not. Brett Helquist, who was the illustrator for a series of Unfortunate Events, another amazing series, he did the illustrations for like the new copies, and don't buy them. I'm sorry, Mr. Helquist, but your illustrations are not. They're not that great. They're not suited to the scary stories. They're not meant for this series. So if you're gonna get a copy of these books, try to get a copy of the original because they're the originals. If you love the first scary stories and if you read it and if you love it, you should try to read the second one and the third one. You'll be surprised by the third one. The third one is probably my favorite of the series, although a lot of the stories I love are from the first one. So, and there's some good and bad for all three of them. I'd say more scary stories is probably the weakest. Uh, it's just not as strong, but that's me. That's my opinion. It's still a good book. It's not as impactful. Um, but yeah, I just really love this series. I just kind of fell in love with it like when I was younger, and I just like obsessed with it, and I love it still. So, and they make a movie, which is great. I think there's gonna be a sequel. They better title it more scary stories. They better. That would just be a great thing. The movie was fantastic. I thought. Yeah, I think they're making a sequel soon. It's in development. It's in production. I think somewhere around there. It's happening for sure. But anyway, that's yeah, scary stories. It's a wonderful series, especially the first one and the third one. The third one is so good. Oh my gosh, the third one is actually a little bit longer. Like that has longer stories. If you want longer, more like in-depth stories, definitely read the third one. Um, and the good news is you can start with any of them. Like you can read the more scary stories or the first one or the third one. It doesn't really matter. Like I guess there's no continuity between the three of them unless you count the first foreword by the author. That kind of connects them. Other than that, you can just read the books in any order. It doesn't really matter. Um, I would start with the first one because it's iconic, it's well known. Um, but if you want to read the third one, it's great. It's up to you. Yeah, that's my second. That's the second thing that got me into horror is that book series, the scary stories, the whole trilogy, especially the third one. Like I was reading the first one and the second one when I was younger. I really loved those, but the third one for me was the most um, engaging. It was the most like informative and also the most enjoyable for me. Yeah, that's another really big part of my childhood is the scary stories books. Um, yeah, I always love them. But let's see, we have enough time to get into the last thing, which is a little known movie called Monster House, which it's not. It's hard to explain. It's not super well known, I guess. If you're a big movie buff, you probably heard of Monster House. If you're not a movie person, then you probably most likely never heard of it. Um, it was this amazing movie. It's one of my favorite movies like ever. I just love the style of it, the concept of a house as a monster. Like they still haven't done that, which is great. It came out in 2006. It was directed by Gil Keenan, and it has so many guest stars that I'm not even gonna. Uh, yeah, I there's so many people in this movie. It's crazy. There's some people. Well, I guess I can name a few. There's Kathleen Turner. We've got let's see, John Heater. We have Mike Mitchell Musso. I think it's his name. Yeah, and then we have Kevin James and oh, I forgot his name. He's with Sandler. He's always with Sandler. He plays Mr. Nevercracker. Steve Buscemi. Yeah, that's his name. So he's in it. There's a lot of awesome stars. Like it's just loaded with awesome actors, and it's a pretty straightforward story. there's these three kids. DJ and Chowder is his best friend, and eventually a schoolgirl named Jenny is pulled into it. And DJ believes that Mr. Nevercracker is an evil man. He always takes kids like toys and stuff. He takes them off his lawn and he puts them in his house. And then he tells the kids to get lost or you're gonna be dead, which is dark. Um, this movie is PG, but it's pretty dark at times. Um, and director Gil Keenan even said he kind of pushed the boundaries of Monster House. That's why it's as dark as it is, because they wanted to make it like it's technically a kids movie, but it's like really dark. Like it's got a lot of adult like messages and themes in it, which is kind of cool. Like it's not like super mature, but it is very very well done. Um, again, the story. Nebuchadnezzar just takes kids' stuff off of his lawn and just tells him to get away from his house. And the house is normal, of course. And so DJ thinks that there's something weird going on with the house because kids are disappearing, animals are going missing, the things around the neighborhood are just gone, like the bicycles and like just I don't know different toys and stuff are just going missing. And it's all because of this house. And obviously, but the title it's the house is the monster, but there's more to it than that. It's not just like, oh, the house is a monster, that's it, okay, we're done. No, there's a real story. Like it's just layered throughout, which is awesome. So it's not just this dumb kids movie with this stupid house that's a monster and it's like, oh, it's over. No, there's a lot more to it. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm just going to say there's a lot more deeper meaning behind the monster house. It's not just some stupid villain. Yeah, the story is amazing. The way the movie was shot was interesting. It was like actual actors on a stage, but they were covered in these dots that would then be put into and they were their performances, so like the performances would be animation would be put over that. So like for example, Kevin James is in the film as a cop. I think it's Officer. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Jeez, the internet did not like me for that amount of time. Okay, sorry. What I was saying was the actors' performances are actually animated into the film. So whenever you see someone move, that's them actually moving, which is cool. So it's this weird thing. Motion capture was, I think it was first done on the Polar Express. I'm 90% sure that was the first movie to use motion capture in an animated film. Film. Um, I'm pretty dang sure. But yeah, if you've seen the Polar Express, it's this amazing masterpiece that no one really talks anymore about anymore. But Monster House was influenced by that, and you'll notice they're pretty similar. Like the animation style is kind of similar, um, but it's way darker. Like the hues of color is just a little bit darker. Um, it's a great movie. I think my favorite part is the house. Like the just looks so like it looks so unique. Like for a house in a movie, it's definitely looks sus. Like when you first watch Monster House, probably one of the first things you'll think about is why does the house look so sus? Like why does it look so weird? And that's a great part of the movie. That's very important. And the characters are really great. I think the standout characters are definitely John Heater as Skull. I think he only appears in like one scene. He's in the arcade with the kids when they're trying to discover how to destroy the house. And it's wonderful. John Heater is always great. So if you want to watch that scene, it's great. And every scene with the cops, officers, listers, and landers, they're just awesome. Nick Cannon is also one of the cops. He's the rookie next to Kevin James. So they kind of play off each other, and they're amazing. They're great. Um, I think the main character is definitely DJ and Nevercracker, who are both awesome. Although Nevercracker, this isn't really a spoiler, but he's not in the movie as much as you think. So just go into it. If you're watching it for the first time, just go into it. Um, just not don't expect him to be in every scene. So yeah, um, I love the Monster House. It's always been one of my favorites. When I was a kid, I got so creeped out when I first saw it because it was just this house that's like alive. Like that's still never been a thing since this movie, which is kind of cool. Like it's still the first movie to have a house be the monster, which is cool. Well, the Haunting Hour did a very similar thing. If you remember the episode My Old House, which I'll cover pretty soon on the channel, uh, that episode also has a house that is alive, but it's not in the same um like only at the end it comes alive. So it's pretty similar, um, but it's not the same thing. So I just wanted to let you know there is a little bit of a connection between the Haunting Hour and Monster House, just a little bit, which is kind of cool. You can tell they were inspired by this movie. Um, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty classic at this point. It's kind of older. It came out in 2006, so it's a little bit dated. Like the effects are not perfect. Like not by today's standards, obviously. Um, it was just a really great movie, one that stuck with me. It probably will stick with me like forever, because I don't know. I love the style, the look of it, the characters, the story, the look of the house. The motion capture is great, and just like the directing was really well done. The story was phenomenal. Um, I got to rewatch this. I need to rewatch it. It's been a little while, but yeah, Monster House was the last thing that really got me into horror. Um, like it really pushed me into the horror genre. So now I'm actually watching, scary movies and horror movies and things, which I didn't do. Let's see, I didn't do that 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm just now kind of getting into horror, which I like. It is a great genre. It's a little bit dated, like a lot of the movies are like kind of cheesy. Like the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is kind of dated now. Um, my favorite horror movie is definitely Scream, but I have a lot of favorites. Like I love Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one was fantastic. Um, Friday the 13th was good. It wasn't what I was expecting. but it was still good. Like a lot of the classic ones are still good in my opinion. Um, yeah, I've watched a lot of the older ones. Like let's see, I haven't seen Hellraiser yet or Texas Chainsaw, but I'll probably see those soon. But yeah, I really like a lot of the most of the newer horror movies. I saw the Blair Witch Project pretty recently. That was great. I saw Paranormal Activity. That's like a newer-ish one. The first one was awesome. Um, I did see The Gallows. That's technically horror. Um, Probably one of my favorite. I guess you can say this is a horror movie. Krampus. Eh, it's a horror thriller. It's not really horror. It's like a Christmas kind of movie, which is cool. Scream is the only like horror movie on my list, so it's not. It isn't a like it is more for older kids. Like it's rated R, so it's obviously not for kids. Um, it's the only movie on my list that is just R rated, which that's fine. Let's see. I'm gonna talk about horror in general. We still have some minutes. Gonna end it in a little bit. But yeah, I'm really sorry for the technical stuff. I'm sorry for that glitch in the beginning, or the glitch just now. But anyway, if anyone is in the chat, let me know what you think about the horror genre and the as a whole. Um, I do like a lot of the newer horror movies. I just have a fondness for a lot of the old filmmaking that they did. For like a lot of the older movies. Like I really want to see Carrie, and I really want to see the Silence of the Lambs. I know those are like really iconic. Also, Psycho is another iconic one. So I'll get to seeing those soon. A few horror movies are on my like favorite movies list, like obviously Monster House, um, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. It's not really horror, but there is horror elements. And obviously Scream is a direct horror movie. It's almost like a parody. It's not like meant to be taken seriously, but it kind of is. Once you're old enough, you a lot of you younger folks on the channel, you should get to watch Scream. It's like really, it's not what you'd expect. Like I didn't get spoiled, thank goodness, with anything, and I just watched it and it was just amazing. But yeah, back to Monster House. It's great. It's very underrated. Nobody really talks about it anymore, which is kind of sad because it was one of the movies that um, kind of jump started the motion capture tech in animated movies. Um, I don't know. In a way, Monster House inspired Disney to kind of go beyond the 2D animation and go to the 3D animation, like they did with Frozen, Tangled, um, Wreck It Ralph, let's see, Zootopia, Moana. A lot of the newer ones were kind of because of Monster House and because of the Polar Express. Because they're not, I mean, obviously Disney doesn't do motion capture, but it's pretty similar um, in terms of like the 3D stuff. So yeah, I actually have drawn the Monster House in two different forms. I've actually drawn like a detailed drawings of when the house is like stationary and then when it's attacking. The sad thing is I don't know where those went, so those are gone, which is kind of dumb. But I don't know where they went, but that's kind of dumb. But yeah, those are gone. But yeah, I do plan to review these three. I do plan to do another video on Monster House soon. Got to review the Scary Stories series and the re-review them. I'll also review the movie because the Scary Stories movie is really amazing. People don't give it enough credit. I saw it in theaters. It was great. And the Goosebumps books are awesome, and the series is pretty great too. I'd say if you're gonna pick one, I'd probably go with the books. Um, just because um, they're a little bit more streamlined for sure. Because like the episodes are, eh, they're hit and miss, but most of them are hits. So you can find the Goosebumps. You can find the series on Netflix, and also you can, of course, rent or buy the books. Monster House, I think you can watch it on Amazon Prime. I think so. Yeah, you might have to buy it, but you can still watch it there. I don't think it's. Oh yeah, it is on Netflix. Right now at least. And yeah, you can watch it there. It might be on Hulu. I don't think it is, but it could be there. And the scary stories, the books, you can probably buy the newer editions on Barnes and Noble, or if you go there, Books a Million. You can get the newer copies, I guess. If you're lucky enough to find original copies, grab them. They're really great. And there also is the movie Scary Stories, which you can watch, I think, on um oh yeah, on Amazon Prime for sure. It's not on Netflix. There also is a Scary Stories documentary, which I would highly recommend. It's basically telling the story of the books and the controversy that they caused back in the day, and why people love them today. So, if you're interested in that, great, because that's a thing. Hope you like this. Sorry if it was. I know I said it would be 30 minutes, but there's some like difficulties and stuff, and yeah, it ended up being like an hour, but that's fine because like it half of it is just like static. Sorry about that. Again, it was the connection, which is fine. I hope you like this. I'm sorry for like rescheduling it so much. Like, I just kept pushing it forward and forward, and sorry about that. But the next video probably won't be until next week because we actually have some friends flying in, so I'm not going to be doing any videos for the next I guess 4 or 5 days. So stay tuned for next week, which we'll go back to more videos. I'm gonna try to do another stream, so that'll be fun. I don't know what it's gonna be, but we're gonna do that. So yeah, um, that's pretty much all I have to say. Uh, Hope you like this. You can obviously rewatch it, and yeah. Let me know what you think of the horror genre. What things got you into it? Please let me know, because a lot of people have different experiences with horror. So yeah, this is just I just talked about what things influence me. So yeah, I hope you like this stream. Thank you for watching. You can rewatch it, and please enjoy more content coming next week, and I will see you then. Thank you very much for watching this, and take care. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.